Shalom.
Shalom.
Hello there is the
There you
traditional
go.
greeting. Hope everybody's doing okay tonight. Said we try to get all this done. We were here for the Omer count.
Day 3.
Where'd we go? Are we might have just lost our feed, but maybe not. Yeah, we're still here.
What are you doing?
Who knew?
The computer just did something, so we're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here is the Omer count and the blessing. It says Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al separat ha'omer. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us about the counting of the Omer. Very good, very good. Now today is week 1.
Day 3.
Day 3.
Day 3.
And I wanted to address one thing real briefly. We had a comment on one of the previous videos on common excuse number 10 about how some people say, I don't need Passover and such. And I made reference to how keeping the Passover helps us know and understand the culture of the New Testament better. And that there are many Jewish idioms, Jewish phrases, things that they would have taken for granted, didn't really need to explain, but that we, so far removed from that culture, don't really know. And one of those that I mentioned, I had a comment from a lady named Susanna who was asking me what this meant. And there's the statement that Peter makes, or is said to Peter when he is about to, considering betraying him. You know, he says, before the rooster...
No, that's not what happened.
I'm getting it wrong.
Yes, you are. You're saying it wrong entirely. Judas betrays him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeshua tells Peter he's going to deny him.
We just got back
times.
from watching the third episode of The Chosen in theaters, and so that's how things
about the Passover. Every episode pretty much starts out with a scene from the Passover Seder.
But it ended with that moment of betrayal, so that's too much on my mind. But yes, that Peter was going to deny him 3 times before the rooster crows. And that's always been one of those...
we haven't seen that part yet.
No, we have not.
That was a spoiler alert you just gave, by the way.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I just said this.
Did he just give a spoiler alert? He just gave a spoiler alert.
Getting to that point.
He just gave a spoiler alert.
Well, no warning. How terrible of me. Anyway, one of the things about that is the prospect of what does that mean? What does it mean to have the rooster crowing 3 times? Of course, we always grew up hearing about it
before the cock crows.
Yeah. It just in terms of being a rooster that's just sounding off in the middle of the night, in the early morning, or whatever else, and how that goes. And there's at least another possibility.
There's a definite another possibility. Not at least like maybe.
Well, this is one of those that's probably and more than likely true. And our understanding of it.
According to the history, yes, it most definitely is.
Yeah. So, but it has to do with...
Sometimes he can be overly diplomatic, which is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is tradition, there is some written records of various Mishnah and different commentary basically saying that things like chickens and particularly in roosters and things were not allowed really within the walls of Jerusalem. And that's largely because they were considered...
It's because of the purity laws.
The purity laws and things, because the chickens go to the bathroom just about everywhere. And wherever, there's lizards or other types of decaying things or whatever, they'll peck at it. And they'll
the purity
dig through things, so they were saying basically that those kind of things, chickens and roosters and things, are not really allowed within the city. And so if they weren't really allowed within the city, then what does it mean when Yeshua talks about before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times? What do you think, dear?
Well, according to the history
Mm-hmm.
and the word, right? The word can be, in the Greek, can be understood as rooster, but it can also be understood as man.
As a man.
So the man who sounds the timing of the time of the cock crow. And they had that idiom of the time of the cock crow when roosters would typically, right before dawn or at dawn, they would crow, and they would call that the cock crow, the time of the cock crow. And so when the man at the temple who was in charge of sounding the different times of the night, when it came to that time in the very, very, very early hours of the morning, he would sound a trumpet, a shofar, and trumpet the timing of the cock crow.
And the awakening, so it'd wake up the next shift,
Kind of like
so
an
to speak.
awakening blast.
The awakening of the Levites to get things ready, to prepare for the morning sacrifices, to get all that stuff up and going, so the next day can proceed as it's supposed to within the confines of the temple and within the confines of the city.
So he's waking up the priests, he's waking up the Levites. It's time for them to start their job for the day.
So that's the likely meaning of what Yeshua was talking about. So before the man comes around and announces the times for the 3rd time to get things going, Peter will have denied him those 3 times himself.
So he's denying him throughout the night, in the middle of the night,
Mm-hmm.
which tells you that the trial Yeshua is having is in the middle of the night. Of course, he's crucified at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Which is the same time as the morning offerings and prayers.
Yes. So he's, this is happening at night, and it was actually, according to Jewish law, illegal to have trials in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll come back tomorrow and explain one of the questions that I had with that is, how did they get the crowd all present and ready to do this trial
in the middle of the night?
In the middle of the night. That was always something that bugged me, and Passover provides an answer. So we'll do that one tomorrow night. With that,
Shalom.
Shalom. Have a good night.